Hello viewers, my name is Adam.
And I'm Aaron.
This is Seeking Me Productions. For you, a new TV season review.
Okay, so I'm so happy that we're finally getting able to touch on this because I've been dying to see how this particular adaptation was going to finally see itself. And we're talking about Neil Gaiman's The Sandman.
DC Comics have been trying to doing their best to adapt many of their properties as of late from many different outlets. Warner Bros. Television is it's a division of Time Warner that is allowed to ship out anything that they produce themselves for any type of distributor.
It has found itself on Netflix.
Because a bidding war.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, Netflix was able to finally distribute the longly developed project of The Sandman.
That is really putting it mildly, considering this is particularly one of the most hardest adaptations hardest concepts to adapt in general.
It's mostly done with the work of Neil Gaiman himself, because his work, and David S. Goyer and Alan Heinberg, two other people who have been long people in the business, like the film and TV business, and even comic book business, and mostly adapting much beloved DC properties in their own right. So,
let's dive right into it. What is The Sandman in general? What is it about? Well, the series of The Sandman revolves itself around Dream, the Lord of Dreams, all in general, or otherwise known as Lord Morpheus. He is part of this collective of internal entities named the Endless, that basically span the consciousness and the imaginations and fabric of existence itself for both humanity and onward. This series, again, centers itself around the Lord of Dreams himself, who is the very personification of the dreaming in and of itself.
In which he controls the very fabric of dreams and nightmares and anything that accomplishes the subconscious mind. And the series begins with him trying to reclaim a runaway nightmare by the name of the Corinthian. Something of his own creation is trying to run amok and cause chaos in the mortal realm.
But unfortunately, this goes it's a total situation where it gets messed up because unfortunately for Morpheus, he ends up getting captured. And this particular imprisonment isn't just for one day. No, this one spans quite some time.
And by the time that he finally escapes, his job is to reclaim his objects of power. That helps focuses his abilities to control the very fabrics of the dreams in itself, and also trying to reclaim and rebuild his fractured kingdom.
But it's not just that concrete in and of itself. No, the particular series itself focuses itself around also short stories that revolves around certain aspects and characters, not just within this series in and of itself, but actually multiple mythoses throughout all of DC in its entirety.
Well, when we say DC, the comics in itself, they take place in the comics as like the outer realm of the mainstream superhero world that resides, like Superman, Batman. And in order to really adapt this show, for which they were able to do at least, is more streamlined.
Yes.
So immediately, something like if watching the show by itself without any prior knowledge, it may seem that this is this is the scope of what you're seeing. But if you know of the source material, much of the stuff is obviously cut out or just changed and altered to fit the frame rate of this 11-episode series.
But with everything they do cut off to just make it more streamlined, I have to say, as being a fan of both the novels and the comics themselves, and having to watch this particular adaptation on Netflix, this is still incredibly faithful towards the work that Neil Gaiman had put in place.
The show, given its TVM rating, they allow themselves to tackle some of the heavy subject matters that encompasses in that on the comic, and adapt them in a way that they try to aim to balance the tone from the darkly nightmarish to the whimsical, awe-inspiring, to very coming-of-age stories, and something that just tells, like, basically on the fundamentals of being human.
Exactly. And what is more human than the very characters that were introduced within this series itself? Again, starting off from the titular character of the Sandman, i.e. Dream or Morpheus himself, Tom Sturges, who plays this particular character, has beautifully realized what Morpheus truly stands for and who he is as both an endless and as a person that technically everybody both knows and is mysteriously not so aware of within themselves.
What the actor Tom does that gives that he brings to the table is to bring a more of emotional depth from an otherwise emotionless character who distances themselves from their duty and their role.
He is burdened with the very emotions and fears and loves and interested aspects of emotions of all of existence in and of itself. So he's very much trying to juggle multiple things at once, and it is something that is insurmountable for anybody, whether you be a mortal or a god.
The cast, for him being the central cast, is an ever-revolving door of other characters, like the other endless. Like, they mostly taken the form of guest stars appearances. So the show, like, because how they decided to adapt, like, the first 2 volumes of the story arc of the Dollhouse in the series, in the comics, you only get very brilliant glimpses of the other endless characters, but they, from what they, the actors that they are able to portray, they instantly make an impression. Like Kirby Batiste's death. Oof, she is basically a really good faithful adaptation of the personality and some.
Almost all of these characters are incredibly faithful towards what you would have saw in the comics, or what they, and them being brought onto the screen for you all to enjoy it at home.
But some variations of how they look on a slight degree. Most of the changes in other than like stripping away the more known DC elements, it has to deal with a lot of them either race bending characters or gender swapping some characters.
Exactly, and that's all. When we talk about gender swapping, we're talking about the case of another character, i.e. Joanna Constantine, who many of us were introduced to the character John Constantine. Now, John Constantine. Yeah, for that character, yes. Is she well realized in the series? Yes, but at the same time, it's a case in where this character did appear in the series itself, but as a totally different individual in themselves. So it's very weird how they kind of mix that around together, and then this is also supposed to be presented in the lieu of being something that's completely in and of itself entirely new for itself, but it still ends up being just a case in which this is just a gender-bent version of that character.
The main antagonist in the form of the Corinthian, played by Boyd Hardbook, he has a very charismatically compelling presence on screen.
He's so seductive in the way that he comes across, but at the same time, you know that through his crooked smile, and where you're looking at, definitely hides something very menacing and filled with malice behind it, and you feel all of that wrapped up in his performance.
Like he's not in all the episodes,
no,
but he does like so many of these actors. They make very much small, big impressions from, despite their short limited time.
There's a lot of scene chewing with a lot of these characters, and I appreciate it. I'm here for it.
Like scene stealer, like Mason Alexander as Desire.
Yes, I love Desire. They were so good. Because of how well they've done their performances, you definitely miss their presence when they're not there.
And especially with the case of truly inspired casting of Gwendolyn Christie as Lucifer.
Now, here's the thing. This particular character is always going to be a tough, nut.
It's a hot button issue. It's a hot button topic whenever time
Exactly.
when a character who is blatantly the embodiment of the Christian devil themselves.
It's supposed to be the embodiment of evil, but no, Winona Grizzly, yes, they were right or spot on for having her cast in this role because she embodies what Lucifer is, at least for what,
and Neil Gaiman's portrayal.
Exactly, for this particular adaptation.
And not to be confused with the other Lucifer's, a DC series that is also on Netflix that's loosely inspired by Neil Gaiman's work by Tom Ellis. But there's a reason why they decided to go out this route. This is a more comics accurate Neil Gaiman's adaptation.
And then when you look at the comics accurate concept, even though, yes, we have characters that have been gender bent or has been race bent for particular roles, a lot of these characters that has been changed in those particular instances, it makes sense because why these particular characters in and themselves are technically ever changing, ever evolving, ever encompassing multiple spans of reality and existence as we know it.
I just wish that going forward, if the season, Pat goes, there's even more seasons going forward after season 1, that they are even a little bit more creative with their diversity on the part of casting.
Yes, but let's be honest,
it's very limited in that.
Yeah, it's only been really structured around whether or not we had one character that was white in this particular sense, and now they're black in this sense, or they were black in this sense, and now they're white.
Like,
there are more than one. If you're going to race bend anybody, I mean,
or be diverse.
Exactly.
There's a whole spectrum of different faces because
yeah.
What's unique about the Sandman is that this is supposed to be the dreams of everyone. Like he's going in and out of the dreams and controls the very fabric of subconscious of the whole wide world.
Exactly. So play with that a little bit further going forward. Now, I understand. I mean, now we're going to go straight into talk about really the production aspect of it, and that goes into that production and concept. This does not skip out on the bucks. You see that money at work here, and it is well used in most sense.
Yes. For most of the visual flair that this series has, this has a very they have a very expansive VFX spectrum.
Yeah.
How they decided we were especially when doing recreating very iconic comic imagery. There's a certain look that in the comics that's unnicely that's still lost in translation from the screen because this is very much more grounded in its aesthetic than one might realize for a series that's basically the very embodiment of imagination. Yeah.
Now let's go take it on that and then actually pointed towards a particular situation. Let's look at the character of Morpheus himself. His look as the Lord of the Dreams. Now, and I understand that it was also put out there earlier that Neil Gaiman wanted this particular presentation of Morpheus that would not necessarily be in a case of having to stand out too much in the human or what is called the waking world, where he's this endless character, this godlike figure walking among mortal men, but he shouldn't necessarily stick out too much. Well, guess what? If he's using his abilities, I feel as though that was a case where he honestly should. The veil should be lifted.
Yeah, you get a glimpse, and the only in the first episode of which you can see his dream mode or dream look, and where he the very starry beat of dark eyes and the flaring hair
and the paleness of his flesh.
The super pale because Hunter's pale.
Exactly. Yeah, he's already pale as it is. I mean, understandably you can't go too pale.
But there's something
ethereal
about his way he's using his powers that we wish that could have been used. Even more so, more often. Some that what they do, when they're not using overly doing creative work with the VFX. I love the set design, which they able to do because you do feel you do see the fact that there is a largely expansive architecture. Or depending on so they recreate certain settings in the novel from the graphic novel. One like because of the episodic nature, when they're going through different time periods, they really a lot of the money probably went through when they're trying to going through different time periods.
Yep.
And also the many different types of fantastical realms that they go through. It's like very creatively done.
Yeah, wait till you get to see what hell looks like in this series. My God. Or just the dream in and of itself, because the dream is just like, yeah, that's where I was like, for so many movies and series out there that talk about dreaming and how it's supposed to be, yeah, this one kind of, I'm like, yeah, you need to look at this, because that's where you need to be looking at.
The music also helps with the balancing the very mixed tones that this series go for.
Yep.
Well, for the composer, thankfully this has a good thing, it's an actual recurring theme.
Yeah.
That goes that starts off with very much of a very echoey, pleasant melody that grows and grows into a very much more expansive, fantastical world that is pretty much very much a good way of summing up the tone. But because of this TVMA rating, I do think that the show is actually a lot more lighthearted than it probably could have been, because so much of it is very much toned down as far as its explicitity of certain graphic content.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like there was literally, they had a couple episodes dedicated to, I don't want to give it away because, I mean, you need to watch the series. Definitely. This is definitely a series that everybody should be talking about.
It's just that.
But I feel as though when it came to that particular part of this...
parts.
Parts of the series, they could have gone a little harder with it.
Rather it be, extreme violence or sexual or very sexual, situations. The series, the comics, they're comic books, so they're able to visually explore that much more further. But the series could also can really be seen for even for families, despite its. I feel though that the TVMA is more like a formality.
Yeah.
At that point, so it could easily be a TV-14 if they really.
Yeah, I would. If you had told me that this was a TV-14 series, I would have totally believed you on that one. But now that you wanted to come around here and say this is supposed to be TVMA, I was like, but why?
So, as a first attempt at doing a live-action adaptation, to help push it forward, we will be saying that this is a great series. Hopefully, this continues on. They're going to be adapting the full series. It could easily be 5 seasons, top max. So, yeah, there we have it. That was our review for season 1 of The Sandman.
Guys, as always, please like, share, and subscribe. Hit that bell down there for notifications. We want to hear from you. Are you a fan of The Sandman? How are you a fan of Neil Gaiman's work in general? Are you going to be watching this series? And if you have, what do you heard or what did you like about it? What didn't you like about it? We want to know.
Be sure to look at our social media outlets for upcoming videos or content that we can't necessarily discuss on this channel because of the time and place.
It's only so many hours in a day.
Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Thank you for watching, and bye-bye.